So, Scaramouche and/or the Wanderer has arrived, or at least will arrive in a week or so. Wanted to take a look at him, his skill kit, mechanics, all that good stuff. At least what they share in the special program. Scar has always been Bones' like most anticipated hero, pretty much since he was in the game as this mysterious figure way back when. I'm also really hyped for him. He looks super fun to play. He has some like air attacks and he's shooting out wind blades. It just looks so sick. As far as I gathered from the introduction of the special program, the Wanderer and Scaramouche are the same person. He's just more known as the Wanderer these days. And apparently all that will be more explained in a later story coming this patch as well. But yeah, he's an Animo Catalyst user, much like Sucrose. And yeah, his basic attack already looks sick as hell. He's throwing wind blades out, not just these wimpy little orbs or whatnot Catalysts usually use. Okay, so that's really cool. They only explained the first part of his elemental skill, but he can basically glide forward. It didn't look insanely fast or that it lasts a long time. But it could make general exploration kind of nicer. But yeah, more importantly, in combat, he will jump up in the air and then he'll have some special air attacks when you're doing basics or charged. This sort of mechanic is quite familiar to me. Tower Fantasy has a lot of normal air attacks for most of their characters, which changes things when they're attacking in the air. So I guess it is somewhat similar to that. And yeah, sounds really cool so far. Also important to know that the attacks he's doing while in the air do still count as normal and or charged attacks, you know, for weapon or artifact set bonuses. So there's a pretty special mechanic with him. It's essentially a second stamina bar you can see there, which dictates how long he can float and thus attack. Basically, pretty much any action you do while floating will consume additional, I'm just gonna continue to call it stamina because you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, holding the jump button will make him go, you know, higher, and this will consume more. Holding the sprint button will make him go faster forward, but it will also consume more. Even doing no action drains the stamina bar, but of course, doing these other actions drains it faster. They don't specifically say how you regain the special stamina, so I'm assuming you just get a full bar when you do the E, and you have until it runs out to do everything you want to. He does have a passive attached to his elemental skill where he jumps up in the air. When you're swirling one of the four main elements, he will get a buff. These buffs include increasing the actual amount of this special stamina he gets, attack crit rate, or a buff that restores some energy to his burst every time he does a normal or charge attack. They don't specify which elements give which buff, so I can't really theory craft any teams right now that would be best to, you know, get, for example, crit rate and this max stamina cap increase. I think those would probably be the best ones there. The second passive attached to his elemental skill is also pretty loaded. So again, while you're up in the air doing your normal or charge attacks, there's a chance this passive will activate. This passive will give you a free sprint in the air, meaning you can dodge without using extra, you know, special stamina. And there will also be additional attacks raining down, these wind arrows. Judging from the preview of the passive there, it seems to happen pretty regularly, so the chance must be at least pretty high, like 30% as a guess. As for his burst, it seems much more simple than his elemental skill in that whole play style. It at least looks to be a somewhat small area of damage. Period. If you're in the air doing these air attacks and do his burst, it will end his elemental skill and these air attacks. So if you don't want to waste his air time, you'd have to do it when you're already about to run out of stamina. Or of course, just do burst before jumping into the air, though I would imagine his burst is stronger if you do it while you're in the air, though they didn't say that specifically. Similar to, I believe, Shogun for the other weapons, Scar here will decrease the more consumption for bows and catalysts with his final passive. So that was the Wanderer. First thoughts on him, he looks incredible. He looks super fun. Obviously, I don't have all the details, but I'm really looking forward to trying him out. There are definitely a few things to pay attention to, like which elements you're swirling for those buffs, and when you get this free dash attack, you know, you want to kind of try and time it so that you can dash without using your special stamina, and his attack animations just look crazy cool. We also will have one other character, Faruzan here.
What did you say? Oh, I'm old now, so every other phrase escapes my ears. Try calling me Madam Faruzan, and I'll see if I can pick that up.
I honestly wasn't expecting that level of sass just from her character design, but that's cool. They talked a lot about her backstory and being trapped in a ruin for like 100 years, and she's actually really old, which is interesting and all, but I want to see them sexy mechanics. Well, she's definitely a bow user. Possibly Animo as well. Animo bow user, like Venti. It's kind of interesting. So we have a 5-star Sucrose and a 4-star Venti. Obviously, at least the Wanderer works very much differently than Sucrose. As for normal attacks, I'm just gonna hand it over to the Traveler.
Her normal attacks are the usual bow attacks you'd expect from a bow user, so there's not too much to say about that.
It's funny because every time I'm doing a talent and constellation overview for a bow character, these are basically my exact words for most bow users anyway. Her elemental skill reminds me a bit of Tignari. When you do it, the next charge attack will be special. It'll turn into a triangle that sucks enemies together. There's also a delayed explosion after the initial explosion. This can also be applied to allies, and they did propose an interesting strategy. In co-op mode, you can hit your partner and they can run into all the enemies and group them together for you. I don't think it'd be that practical in a lot of situations, but it probably would be fun. All right, and the passive attached to her elemental skill is pretty cool too. It'll reduce the charging time, again similar to Tignari, but also it'll reduce their Animo resistance. Possibly her and Wanderer could work well together.
Yeah, 1 minute she's here, the next she's probably gone for 100 years.
Too soon, Ito. That was actually hilarious. With her burst, she'll summon this weird shape that runs around in a triangle, bursting all over the place. Okay, my suspicions are correct. Not only will her burst also reduce the Animo res, but it'll also give an Animo damage buff. You can see them previewing Xiao here. So yeah, Xiao or again, Wanderer. And then she has a passive on her burst that further increases Animo attacks from other teammates based on her base attack. So at least right now, it definitely feels like she is incredibly niche. She can basically only be used with Animo DPSs, like Xiao, or maybe a C6 Kazuha, or Wanderer. But yeah, as someone who has every character, I am starting to appreciate niche characters a lot more, because when I'd want to showcase a Xiao or whatever, Faruzan is an easy pick as a team member. Oh no. No, don't do this. Wanderer and Ito together? Nah, man. And Faruzan is already going to be here. That's cool. Yeah, since they finally only have 2 new characters this version instead of 3, I assume she's going to be in both phases, which would be cool, but Ito's not going to be in both phases, and Wanderer is not going to be in both phases. I mean, C4 Ito is good enough, I guess. But man, if anyone was gonna be my first C6 exclusive, it probably would have been him. Oh, that's interesting, but where's Faruzan? Please tell me she's going to be here as well. It says Faruzan will appear in the event wishes from Ashes Reborn and Oni's Royale. These are these 2, but she's gone here. Bruh. I guess I'll decide what I'm gonna do later. We also do have a 5-star weapon. If we go a little bit back in stream, actually, we can see what that does, because they actually showed it for a sec. It's level 40 with a crit damage main stat of 24 and 261. Judging by that, I would say it skews a little bit more towards base attack than most other weapons. Should be crawling up near 700 with about 45 crit damage, whereas I would say average 5 stars have around a little over 600 base attack and more crit damage or some other stat. That passive actually looks insane though. So first of all, just normal attack speed increased by 10%. That's already pretty powerful. Normal attack damage will be increased by 4.8 every second for 14 seconds. So if you just times that by 10 for 10 seconds, you're already at nearly 50% normal attack damage increase. It cuts off there at the end, but it says the maximum is 48%. So after 10 seconds, but also every normal attack will increase it by 9.6. So you can potentially get this full 48% buff very quickly, especially if you have a faster normal attacker like the Wanderer seems to be. It does cut off down there, but other weapons and effects have this same text. It probably says the effect will be removed once they leave the field, which obviously makes sense for something that buffs only normal attacks, and normal attack speed will have no effect on anything off field regardless. I'm not going to cover events too extensively. This does seem to be the main one though. I do kind of like this. Again, it's like the little mini games. I had a lot of fun with the Adventurer's Trials. It's like that old classic Brick Break game, but with more mechanics. So you can swap between your main character, which will change the element, and there will be elemental reactions going on in these blocks. So yeah, seems cool. We also have Across the Wilderness, which is apparently a race event. Essentially, you run around and collect balloons. You can use elemental skills and passives of your units, so bring units with maneuverability like Venti and whatnot. Windtrace is back again. I've made it a public opinion that I am not the biggest fan of this event. Maybe they make it different this time, I don't know. So they buff the rebels a little bit. Once you get captured as a rebel by the hunter, yeah, you can still kind of participate a bit by dropping objects to confuse the hunter and have them waste a little bit of time. This obscure effect or whatever, I don't think does much to a human player, but yeah, I guess it can be a little annoying and slow them down a bit. And I guess you have something to do rather than just wait until the timer runs out or everyone gets captured. They added a couple new abilities to both sides as well, but yeah. We also have the Misty Dungeon, Realm of Sand. Seems to be a more gameplay focused event, which I appreciate. I don't remember this being a rerun, but we've had a pretty similar event already with like going through these dungeons and doing these challenge things with the team and healing the team and whatnot. But yeah, I liked that event, and if this one is similar, then should be nice too. They're also talking more about the Genius Invocation trading card game. I guess that'll be coming this patch. Again, not something I'm super really hyped about. It's kind of not really Genshin at this point. I'm gonna be giving it a fair try. Maybe I will end up enjoying it. We'll see. Gonna pause here for a second. I just saw Kaching's burst on the board. I'm a little bit more on board now. That actually looks really cool. I didn't know they'd be all animated and stuff. And apparently there will be more mechanics and stuff like from Genshin, I guess, reactions and such like that. So shouldn't be too hard to get into from someone who's never played like Hearthstone or whatever. The mechanics seem simple enough. I'm not gonna go into detail here. I will most likely make a video on it where we can talk about the mechanics more. But I mean, yeah, since it is a permanent thing, I think it is worth like actually getting into and learning and stuff. Unlike a lot of the events where I feel like I just kind of want to get through them because they're gonna go away and there's no point of getting good at anything in particular or developing a strategy for it because it's just gonna be gone. But since it is permanent, I'm gonna do my due diligence and become familiar with it. Okay, what I saw was the dynamic cards you have to buy with the currency within this side game, I guess, which is fine. I'm sure you can grind that currency. So that was it for the version 3.3 special program. Scaramouche, again, insane looking. Faruzan, she looks really interesting too. Again, super niche sounding character, but those are cool too. And I will be honest, the more they talked about the Genius Invocation and all of its mechanics and stuff, the more they kind of won me over a little bit. So I'm probably not going to jump headfirst into it straight away as soon as the patch drops, but I am more excited to check it out than I was. I was a little apprehensive at first, I will be honest. But yeah, that's it. Make sure to leave your own thoughts in the comments down below. Dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.